Hello and welcome to Flying Bobbins. I'm Liz and today I want to show you how to make this beautiful quilted sewing machine cover and overlocker cover so that you can create your dream sewing space. Now this cover here for the sewing machine is beautifully quilted. It has ties at the side so that you can untie it and lay it out as a working mat. You have a pin cushion over here that just unhooks from the button here, and on the other side of this you have a handy needle keeper to keep everything organised. You have 9 pockets, including some mesh pockets at the front where you can store all your sewing machine accessories. And if you're lucky enough to have an overlocker as well, then you can make a matching overlocker cover which features its own thread catcher here. So if your overlocker doesn't come with its own thread catcher, this one just catches all those offcuts from your overlocking, and that detaches with a bit of Velcro so that you can empty out all of your offcuts. Now both of these covers untie at the side so you can lay them out flat as a work mat. You've got pockets for everything you could need to keep everything beautifully tidy and organised and close to hand. It's a great project for a beginner or confident beginner, and there are kits available in a choice of 3 different patterns at the moment, as well as a pattern so that you can choose your own fabric should you wish to. The kits and patterns are all available from flyingbobbins.com. I'll put all the details that you need in the description below. So I'm going to take you through first of all the machine cover, then the overlocker cover, and these I will sew along with you every single step from cutting out to finishing off so that you can be confident making your sewing machine and overlocker cover. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you really enjoy your sewing with me today. Let's start by taking a look at the pattern. Now in your pack, in your kit, or if you purchase the pattern, you're going to get a beautiful, shiny, lovely new pattern. This is my pattern that I've developed for this project, so excuse the fact that it's all handwritten, but it's essentially the same pattern. So there's a few pattern pieces for you just to cut out. You've got your main machine cover panel there. And then I'm going to show you how these layer up. So that's your main panel. You're going to cut 2 of them, and they are going to sit across the front and the back of your machine with a join, a seam across the top. And I'll just show you, there's 2 reasons why we're cutting 2 panels. Firstly, if I show you on the machine cover there, it's so that you can make a hole to pull your handle through, and a lot of covers don't have this, and then it's tricky to carry machine around, so I like to add that gap there that your handle pulls up through, and then you can pick your machine up and carry it even with the cover on, which makes it ultra convenient. The other reason why I do it in 2 different panels is so that the print is going to be the right way up. So you've got the machines facing up here and also facing up here on the back. If you just had one long piece of fabric that wrapped around without a seam at the top there, you would have your print going upside down on the back side of your machine cover. So we cut 2 pieces of fabric for the outer, back and front, 2 pieces of fabric for the lining, and then 2 pieces of fusible fleece. So you're going to have 6 of these main panels. So these main panels, if I show you on here, that's that. Now I've done this in different sizes. So obviously different machines are different sizes. So the best thing for you to do is to measure across the width of your machine, and then measure all the way over the top of your machine. I'll show you in a minute. And then you're going to cut out your panel to the corresponding size. So let's show you how I do that. Now firstly you're going to want to take 2 measurements to decide which size cover you're going to make. So just measure across the fullest part of your machine. Mine's about 40 centimetres, 41 centimetres there. So if in doubt, go up slightly because you can always trim it down, but try and get thereabouts. So I'd say that's sort of 41 centimetres there. And then you want to measure over the top of your machine, because this is how the cover, you want the cover just to sit nicely on the worktop there, and then measure across the full stretch across the top of the machine there. It's about 65, 66. So make a note of those two measurements, the measurements across the widest part of your machine, taking into account any your spin wheel or any other bits. You can see how this bit here is narrower than here. So measure it at the widest part and then measure across the top as well. And that will give you your dimensions. You can then see which lines to cut on your pattern. I'm going to quickly show you the cover now. So this is it finished. So you've got your main panel, and then this is how the pockets layer up. So you've got your main pocket that goes across the full width there. So that's what the pink pocket is here. So that's going to sit like this here. You can see that I've cut this at the moment on the largest, widest scale. So you can see that that sits there. So that's double the width. You've got a fold line in the middle, and that just folds over just so that it's nice on both the inside and the outside. And that will sit at the bottom there. And you're just going to cut your width. Obviously, if you cut your pockets the same width as your cover. Then I've actually added, based on my sample here, I've been using this, and I just felt that these pockets were too shallow for my scissors and these pockets was too deep for my little snips. So I've added an additional pocket here, so you're going to get even more pockets. So, and you can choose to layer these pockets up as you wish. You could, omit this step, but I quite like having an additional pocket here. So this is the secondary pocket. Once again, it just folds in half, and once again, you'll just cut it to fit whichever width cover you're making, and that sits on top there. And then on top of that, you've got this narrower pocket which just sits at the front, and that is your net pocket, and that goes there. Now the reason why I've done a smaller net pocket at the front there is just because I find that really useful to put the spare feet in. So the feet for your machine are really little, and also they can get lost at the bottom of these pockets. So by making this mesh pocket, you can easily see what's in there, and you can easily access all the different feet for your machine. So I find that really useful to have a net pocket at the front. You can see I've been dreaming this up for a little while now, and I do love things with lots and lots of pockets. So you've got your main cover, then you've got your first main pocket, you've got your secondary pocket, which you can choose to not have if you don't think you'll need it, and then you've got your net pocket that just goes at the front there. And all of those have got those width increments so that it all remains in scale, whichever size machine cover you are making, and obviously that will depend on your make of machine. Then you're going to cut 4 of these. These are the tie pieces, so these go at the end here. And the reason why I do this with a tie, it just means that you can untie your machine cover and then lay it out flat. You can pop your machine on the top and use that as a nice mat for your machine, and then these pockets can just hang forward in front of you with everything that you need easy to access. So you've got your ties there. Let's line that back up. And then you'll see that I just add a nice bit of the binding as a feature. So you've got a bit of a binding there to kind of finish off these secondary pockets. And that binding is carried through to the top of the net panel to make it look nice, and then all the way around the outside so it all ties in together. So you'll have a bit of binding that will go here between these pockets to separate them. And then your last pattern piece is your pin cushion, which will sit just at the end there. And this pin cushion, I'm going to show you how to print off a needle guide. And I find this really useful if you're taking your needles in and out of your machine, you're using different types of needles, then you will have a little space so that you can always recognise which needle it is. And we're going to just put a little tab and a button up there to attach that onto your cover as well. So you've got a detachable pin cushion, which is really useful, and you can also use that to store your sewing needles. And then you can use the pocket behind there as well for other bits and pieces, maybe for putting in your needles, your packets of needles as well. So hopefully I've thought of everything. You've got a pocket there for all of the bits and pieces that you need. And like I say, your pattern, if you purchase this pattern, you're going to get the beautiful shiny new pattern rather than my rough copy here. But this was how I developed it. So let's have a look at the cover on the machine. So here's my machine cover on the machine. twist that up a bit, and you can see that you've got your hole here, which I've lined up so that my handle will pull through nice and easily, and I can pick up and move that machine about really easily. So I've got access to the handle there, and that just closes up when you're not using it. You've got your pockets all at the front there. Move that back again. So you can just store anything you like in there. The pin cushion is going to go here. Then this unties. And you can just sit your machine on top of your cover there, and your pockets can just come down in front of you. If you've got the machine at the edge of the table, that will just fall down in front, and you can access all of your tools. So my measurements are about 42 wide by about 68 across the top. So I'm going to cut that size, and I've given these lines here as a guide, and I've done it in 1 centimetre increments either side, so each size goes up by 2 centimetres. If you are, not exactly on those lines, you can just cut it to whatever size you want really, but to be honest with you, what we can do is cut to the next size up, and then you can always trim it down a little bit. You don't have to trim it down a lot because you're going to lose the placement of your pockets, but if we were talking a ½ centimetre here or there, you can always trim it down. So just measure your machine. I've done it to go up to quite a big size machine, and then trim it down to what it needs to be. And then you'll need to also trim down your pocket panels as well to the same size grade. So that's all of my pattern pieces now cut to size, and the ties and the pin cushion, they are going to be the same for all sizes, so you don't have to worry about that. So just to show you again how those all layer up, just do a quick check for yourself just before cutting your fabric that everything matches nicely. So there we go, there's my secondary pocket there. And I've got my ties, and then my pin cushion will sit there. The pin cushion looks big at the moment, that's because it's got a seam allowance on it, but that will sit there. Beautiful, so everything's lining up nicely. I'm ready to cut out my fabric. Cut out now, and if you have purchased the kit, then you will have a 70 centimetre length of both your outer fabric, your fabric that will be on the outside of your cover, and your lining fabric as well. And that's plenty enough to make any of the sizes of the machine covers. If you're making a smaller machine cover, you will just have a little bit extra left over. So first of all, I'm going to line that up. This is folded in half, so I want to cut 2 of these, so I can just line that up. That's my main machine cover panel there. I'm going to cut 2 of those, and then in this little bit here at the top, I'm going to cut my secondary pocket. I only need 1 of those, and then I'm going to need my pin cushion, and I'm going to cut 1 of each, 1 pin cushion in the print and 1 pin cushion in the plain, just so that it has both sides. And it's really important to make sure that you do cut 1 in the plain, because if you're going to print on the needle guide, then you need this to be in the plain fabric. It won't, your needle guide won't show up on the print. And then we're going to cut 4 of the straps. If you're making a slightly bigger cover, then you might not have as much space left up here for cutting, but don't worry, because this is folded in half, so once you've opened this piece of fabric out, you have plenty enough fabric to cut everything out. So let's start by cutting out my main machine cover. And normally in a lot of my kits I do include everything pre-cut, but obviously because there are different sizes of machine, I just include the pattern and the fabric, and then I let you cut it yourself, just so that you can get the perfect size for your particular machine. Now, with regards to the grain, obviously this is very obvious, it's a rectangle, but I'm just eyeballing it here and lining the bottom of my cover up with the bottom of those ladies' skirts just there. It's just a convenient location for lining that up. And then you can choose to either pin in place and use scissors to cut, or you can use your rotary cutter, whichever you'd rather. This is an easy pattern to cut out. It's essentially all rectangles, so nothing really tricky there. So I'll just start by cutting that out first. Try and keep everything nice and square. So those are my two main panels cut out. Now I shall grab the remaining piece of fabric and I can cut, whoops, on a single width now, a single layer. So I want to cut one pocket, pin cushion piece, making sure that I've got the ladies the right way. And then in the remaining part, I'm going to cut my 4 ties up there. And I will have a bit of fabric left over, which is good. I know I've cut a nice straight line there, so I can line that up, saving a bit of fabric, but also saving a bit of work. That bit done. I'll keep to one side any spare bits because they might be useful for some fun little accessories and extras. Now for the ties, I know that I need 4 of these, and I know that they're 4 centimetres by 40 centimetres. So I could pin on my pattern piece and cut round them. That would be fine. I can save some work by folding my fabric in half, and it will just about squeeze on there. What I can do though, because I have got my rotary cutter and I find it fairly easy to use, is I can just measure out a 4 centimetre strip there with my ruler and just cut some 4 centimetre strips. Just makes it a little bit easier. I don't worry about the print being the wrong way around for the ties because they're so narrow that it doesn't really make a massive amount of difference, but you could cut, you know, swivel things around a bit and cut them the right way if you wanted to. I think once they're folded in half and in half again, then you're not really going to see the difference. It's just the fact that you've picked up on the colours from the prints there. And you could always cut the ties in the lining fabric. It's your design, so it's up to you. That gives me exactly 40 centimetre long, so I'm just going to chop those in half. And then I've got my 4 40 centimetre long by 4 centimetre wide strips. There you go. So you can do that however you choose, but I just found that a quick way of doing it. So I've got my 4 strips there. I've got my pin cushion panel, my secondary pocket panel, and 2 of my main panels. That's that fabric cut out. Now I need to cut out my lining fabric, and I've got my spare bits here. Oops, so I could just make a nice little pencil case or something maybe with that later on. Nice to have a little bit of spare. So we're now going to do the same again, but this time with the lining. So I'm going to cut out 2 pieces of the main panel and 1 of these, And then with the remaining fabric, I just need to cut out one pin cushion piece. So it's just these 3 pattern pieces that you're going to cut out of the lining. So that's the main panel, the pocket, and one of the pin cushions. I'm going to use my rotary cutter, but you could use your scissors if you rather. So that's 2 of the lining fabric pieces cut out. And then, whoops, I just want to cut one pocket, so I can just unfold that fabric now. Oops. And just cut one pocket. And just one pin cushion panel too. And I've got a nice bit of spare fabric left over there again. So there's all my lining pieces. One for the pin cushion, 2 pieces for the lining of the cover, and then 1 piece for the main pocket. And you will also get 1/2 metre of fusible fleece in your kit. So this will allow you to cut out your 2 fleece panels. So I've just folded that in half, and then I can cut that out there. If I put it right up to the corner, then I'm giving myself a nice bit of spare fleece as well. One, 2. So the very last thing, you'll get a piece of net in your kit. You just need to cut that down to size to create the net pocket that will go at the front of your machine cover. And that is everything cut out. So let's go through a quick checklist of what we've got here. So firstly, you have your 2 lining panel pieces. Then you have your 2 pieces of fusible fleece. Then you have your 2 pieces of outer fabric, 1 and 2. Then you have your main pocket piece, which will sit here. You have your secondary pocket piece. And if you have got a direction print, just make sure that they're facing the right way up. Doesn't matter that they're facing upside down on the interior of the pocket. Then we've got our net pocket that just sits in the front of that. And the 2 pieces of fabric that will make up our pin cushion that will sit there. You can see how it's all going to go together really nicely. And then you've got your 4 ties, and you could cut the ties from the lining or from the fabric, whichever you would rather do. So there's your checklist of everything that you should have cut. And also in your kit you will have a piece of binding, so to finish your edges and your details. You have a button that you can attach your pin cushion onto your machine cover with, and you'll have matching threads to go with the lining and the outer fabric, and then transfer paper so that you can print on your needle guide for keeping your needles, and I'll go through that with you later. So everything is now cut out. We're ready to start pressing and sewing, which is the really exciting part. So if you've ticked everything on your checklist, you've got everything set up, then let's get on with the sewing.